Hello, this is Ricky Pounds back again to talk about a particular piece of Meissen. Today we're going to be looking at a Hausmaler decorated cup with military scenes. Now this particular cup was outside painted. It was painted by Ferdinand Mayer von Prenitz. Now it's called a Hausmaler decorated product because Meissen produced lots of undecorated Meissen that they just didn't have the capacity to paint. They were producing much more than the amount of artists they had. So a lot of this unpainted blank porcelain got sold to outside painters. Some were very good, some were very bad. So there was this problem with consistency and quality of painting. So much so that Meissen would later introduce the famous cross swords, and they would put a cancellation mark through it to state that this was sold in the white. Now, one of the most famous of these Hausmaler artists were the studio of Ferdinand Mayer von Prenitz, which we can see here in front of us. Now, after doing some research, I've managed to patch together a theory of what this painting represents. I believe that the central character we can see in front of us at the moment is associated very much with the Great Northern War, which was fought between 1700 and 1720. This was a series of campaigns in which Russia, linked with several other countries in a temporary alliance, confronted and eventually replaced Sweden as the predominant power in Northern Europe. While contemporary with the Duke of Marlborough's pivotal campaigns against France, the Great Northern War was in fact more decisive since it reshaped the Northern European power balance up to the eve of the Napoleonic Wars. Now, the cavalier in this painting appears to be a Russian hussar. Notice, for instance, the feathers and paraphernalia associated with his hat, his coat and drapery, and the curving of the sabre sword. Now, the exciting thing of doing research for videos such as this is that you're always making new connections. And here is one, and this was actually done just a few seconds ago whilst making this video. Here we have a very finely decorated plate by Mayer. And if you look very closely, you can see two hussars with a horse. And the one on the left looks very similar to the character that I've got on my Meissen cup. And we will have a look at that in just a second. And so we can see here the two characters. The one on the left is from my cup, and the one on the right is from the plate. And you can see they're almost exactly the same. In fact, it could be the same person, minus the sword. You've got these green kind of trousers or pants. You've got this waistcoat with an orange or red band. And then you've got the headdress, the hats, same kind of material, same kind of look as well. So it may well be that these were companion pieces at one time. And here we have two examples of Russian hussars. One on the left is mounted. Notice the similarities with the last photograph that I showed you, the hats, the drapery, the details of the uniform, and of course the curved swords. Now, those viewers that were more eagle-eyed than others would have spotted on the Meissen porcelain this rather peculiar scene happening on the hill to the right of the encampment. What we have here appears to be a really unfortunate person who's been impaled on the breaking wheel. Now, the breaking wheel was a instrument of torture from the medieval times, a particularly barbaric way of ending somebody's life and causing maximum pain. This particular individual appears to have been pierced through his body, and you can just make out a head actually on the spike itself. To the right, you also have this what appears to be a watchtower with 4 prisoners tied to stakes. Now, the breaking wheel was frequently used in the Great Northern War. Now, if this is the case, the unfortunate prisoners on the wheels and those attached to the stakes are likely to be Ukrainian Cossacks or Swedish troops. Now, from 1708, Sweden had become allied with the Ukrainian Cossacks, who were later threatened by Russian expansion, particularly after the ascendancy of Peter the Great. And in this engraving, we appear to have evidence of the execution of Cossacks on the breaking wheel by Russian troops just a year after the Cossacks had actually entered the war on the side of Sweden. And here we have one of the most famous depictions of the torture wheel in a painting. They appear against the skyline on the top right hand side of this painting. And here we have a detail of the Triumph of Death with some of the wheels we were just talking about in the foreground and the background. Some of them will have bodies on, such as this one here. There were also corpses in the trees, on the ground. This unfortunate person looks like they're about to be dragged to hell. And you've got the birds in the background as well, waiting to feed on the corpses. And here we have another engraving showing the torturous use of the wheel. We have three examples here. One on the left having a pair of pliers break his skin, the one in the centre being hit by an axe, and the one on the right being beheaded. And just behind him you can see a raised wheel with an impaled head on the top. And then if you go to the right, you can see some characters here, very similar to the mice and cup as well, being tied to stakes, and we have a fire in front of them. Of course, this was a typical way that witches were destroyed from the medieval period, but also it was a way, of course, that enemies of the state, heretics, etc., also died. Now, here are three other images of the mice and cup that I showed you. Now, this is the inside. You'll notice the really thick gilding here, the really thick pattern. And this really is a trademark of this particular Hausmaler. In the centre, you can see it's actually lost its handle, but you've still got the decoration around the outside. And here, just off centre, you have the trademark cross swords of Meissen, which were introduced from around 1727. From 1723, it was said that all Meissen products should have this particular trademark, but it wasn't for another 3 or 4 years until it was regularly used. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please have a look at the other videos that I've got. I've got around 38 to 40 videos now. I will also be producing videos again in the future, so I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you very much.